Peace, peace, peace. Love, love, love. Unity, unity, unity. Family, family, family. Safety, safety, safety. Abundance, abundance, abundance. Love, love, love. Peace, peace, peace. Baby. Dion.
Yeah.
Look at your phone. Now. Peace, peace, peace. So today, I'm reading again the. Oh, hey, baby. Hey. All right, love you. Okay. Ooh, boy. See ya. Um, Today I'll be reading from The Power of Discipline. It is December 10th, 2004, forward 3. So let's get it. No, random page, random chapter. Here you go. Nope. I read this on 12/6, so I read this on December 6th. It's another one. I read this on December 3rd. Okay. Okay. Chapter 17. Again, this is The Power of Discipline, how to use self-control and mental toughness to achieve your goals. Alright, we here. Yep. Chapter 17. How to avoid burnout. So far, you have spent 16 chapters reading about how to build self-discipline and remain focused when you encounter circumstances and obstacles that deplete your willpower. But it is also important to understand that when you push yourself too far, you can do yourself some serious damage. In this chapter, I'm going to talk about burnout and how you can avoid it. You will learn about the symptoms, how to recover, and why some people end up physically and emotionally destroyed because of the immense amount of pressure they place on themselves. Although it is possible to bounce back from stress and burnout, prevention is better than cure. What is burnout? Stress is a normal part of life. Whether you experience it daily, weekly, or once a year, you will experience it at some point. When your circumstances become overwhelming, it becomes difficult to think straight or do anything productive. The inability to function due to stress is referred to as brain freeze, and this typically lasts for a few minutes or sometimes a few hours. Stepping back from the problem or taking a break from work is usually all we need to get us back on track. It decreases anxiety levels and helps us regain self-control. However, when a person has completely burnout, recovery is extremely difficult because she is no longer able to cope either mentally or physically. With the demands of life. Burnout can reach a level where the person requires psychiatric assistance. Burnout is a physical and mental state that causes low mood, exhaustion, the inability to make decisions, and hopelessness. Anyone can suffer burnout, whether you are a CEO of a large corporation, a single mother, or a part time employee. It all depends on how much pressure you place on yourself, your personality, and your coping skills. People who suffer from burnout will often blame themselves for their inability to cope. They will compare themselves to the peers experiencing the same conditions as they are, who are coping fine, and then jump to the conclusion that there is something fundamentally wrong with them. High achievers often suffer from burnout because they thrive off of demanding roles and will push themselves to the limit without taking the time out to rest and relax. This works for the short term, but is it viable strategy over the long term? For example, if you are at the final stages of closing a large business deal, you probably need to put a few late nights to make sure that everything is in order. However, this is only because a problem when work-life imbalance becomes the norm. As you are as you are improving your self-discipline, it is important that you take the necessary precautions not to stretch yourself too far. The good news about burnout is that it doesn't creep up on you. Nobody feels fine one day, then burn out the next. Therefore, as long as you pay attention to how you are feeling, you can prevent it. As strange as this may sound, it's important that you put a cap on your self-discipline. You can achieve this by learning how to say no to projects and tasks that you leave drained and stick to a healthy routine at the same time. It is imperative that you get at least 7 hours of sleep per night. Drink plenty of water throughout the day and eat a balanced diet. Since he said that, I'm gonna drink some water right now. Make sure y'all drink y'all water, teas, your juices, your teas, your waters. It's 4 o'clock over here. I'm drinking water, tea. My juice for the day is apple. Thank y'all. Plenty of water throughout the day and eat a balanced diet. This might sound like too much effort or that you are wasting time on things that are not going to help you reach your end goal. However, it is important to remember that if you don't take that time out to keep yourself healthy, you won't have the mental capacity to perform at a high level and make wise decisions. Remember, when you are tired, your willpower is depleted. Therefore, get enough sleep and eat nutrition meals that will provide you with a good source of energy will increase your chances of success. Take the time out to relax. If you overwhelm yourself with difficult decisions and endless tasks, it is inevitable that you will reach burnout. There is more to taking time out to relax than just enjoying yourself. It will allow you to recharge your batteries so you can perform at the highest level. Each members, each, I'm sorry, Even members of the special forces and Shalom monks are expected to work or train 7 days a week. They understand that too much physical and mental pressure can have a negative effect on their ability to exercise. Self control. When you take time out to relax, make sure you do so properly, which means letting go of thoughts about work. Don't keep checking your phone to see if a client has responded to any of your messages. Relaxation is about giving yourself a break from the stress and pressures of the outside world. In general, it isn't the workload that drives people to burnout, it's the thought process that accompanies the workload. Everything boils down to choice and how you choose to view your experiences. If you don't enjoy your work and see it as a burden, eventually you will start feeling the pressure. Alternatively, you can adopt the attitude that although the task you are working on is demanding and will require that you put a lot of effort into it, in the long run, you will reap the benefits. Avoid trivial distractions and procrastination, or your workload will pile up. Backlogs will force you to do an excessive amount of work in a short time frame, which can cause burnout. This is a form of self-induced stress, and you can avoid it by being proactive. Most people are most people are motivated and excited at the start of a project, which is good, but you should also bear in mind that things might not always work out as planned, which is why you need a framework to work from. The importance of scheduling. As the beginning of any project, take time out take, take time out to work out a schedule. In this way, you can come up with a realistic estimate of how much time you will need to put into the project. If you are not sure, ask someone who has knowledge or experience. Then you do for advice. If you are still uncertain, assume that the project will take approximately 1.5 times longer than you had expected. If you have finished early, you can take the extra time you have available to relax or get a head start on the next project. If you do not if you do need the extra time, you haven't lost out on anything because you anticipated it from the beginning. Personally, I find that scheduling help when it comes to putting presentations together and writing up reports. Over time, I have found that keeping spreadsheets of tasks and documenting the time it takes to complete each one has been very helpful, especially when it comes to my weekly planning. Although scheduling seems like a common sense strategy for handling your workload, you will be surprised at how very few people implement this approach. One of the main reasons for not doing so is fear. Scheduling requires you to look closely at a project, and it highlights the fact that there is not going to be a lot of work involved. There are also going to be challenges, and you have got to take into consideration the fact that things might not work out the way you had originally planned. The only way to get around this is to acknowledge your fears and take action regardless. There would never come to a time when you would wake up and feel confident about difficult assignment. In fact, until you start working In fact, until you start working on a project, your anxiety levels will increase. The earlier you get into the habit of doing this, the less stressed you will become in the long run. What if I have already reached burnout? I can hear you saying, okay, these tips you have provided are great, but I'm already exhausted and the thought of another day of work makes me physically sick. The only way to recover from burnout is to take some time off to give your body and mind a break. If you have broken your arm or were suffering from bronchitis, you need to take time off to recover. The same applies to burnout. You might need 1 week or 2 weeks of rest. Just make sure you go back to work when you are fully recovered, not when you think you have to. You have to. If you are employed, let your employer know. If you are self-employed, let your clients know. Fortunately, work-life balance is important to employers, so in most cases you will get the sympathy and understanding that you deserve. During the recovery process, spend time reflecting on what you can learn from the experience. Remembering, experienced burnout doesn't mean that can't cope with your job or you are a failure. However, it is a clear indication that you need to change the way you approach your work. When you are willing to evaluate what you have gone wrong, what you could have done differently, it will provide a strong foundation for you to make constructive changes. Think back to the time when you began to show signs of burnout and write out a list of strategies you could implement to prevent it from happening again. For example, was your burnout triggered when your work colleague went on vacation and you agreed to take over his workload? This would have been the perfect opportunity to use the power of no and inform your colleague that you have got too much to do already and won't be able to take on any more projects. Striking the right balance between safeguarding your mental health and pushing yourself to the limit is a skill, and it will take a while before you perfect it. Conclusion. Congratulations, you have read the entire book. You are not average, neither you are ordinary. You are an extraordinary person. How can I say this with confidence? Because you have achieved something that most people never accomplish. You have read a book from start to finish. You have taken the initiative to learn about the habits required to improve your level of self-discipline. If you felt like you didn't have any discipline before you started reading this book, you can celebrate. In fact, there has been a definite improvement because it takes persistent determination and discipline to see something through to the end. You might be thinking, well, I only read a book, but I would like to remind you that it's one positive step in the right direction. Remember, willpower is like a muscle, and the more you use it, the stronger it will become. You are not going to develop the discipline of Bill Gates overnight. It's going to take some time, but you have got to start somewhere. Now that you have read the book, yep, it's time to take action. Take some time out, reassess your life, and decide how you are going to start this journey. Let's drink some. Now that you have read the book, it's time to take action. Take some time out your life and decide how you're going to start this journey. Don't make the life difficult and give yourself a unrealistic target. Start with adopting one habit for 5 minutes each day or waking up half an hour early than you are used to. Your life is a reflection of the decision you have made. And if you want a better future, it's essential that you are start making better decisions. It is possible for you to have the life you desire, but it starts with taking responsibility for the state of your life at the present moment. Whether it's your finances, lifestyle, relationships, or your mindset, it is up to you to make the required changes to improve. The following quote fully embodies the point I am making. You must take personal responsibility. You cannot change the circumstances, the season, or the wind, but you can change yourself. Jim Rohn. Self-discipline is a lifestyle. It is not something that you put to use when you want to achieve a goal. Self-discipline should be embedded in your character. We look at the rich and famous and envy their lives, but it took many years of making private sacrifices to get where they are today. Your character behind closed doors is more important than the character that people see in public. Author, speaker, and pastor John Maxwell had a lecture at a university, and one of the students asked the following questions. John, your leadership principles sound life changing. The problem is that I don't know anyone who will allow me to lead them. What can I do about this? Maxwell responded, that is a very good question. You can start by leading yourself. Before you can help anyone, you must first help yourself. You pick up this book with the knowledge that you were in the wrong place and needed help. It might not feel that way, but you are in a good place. If you feel that your goals are unattainable, you are in a good place. Because that's how every successful person felt at the beginning of their journey. What they wanted to achieve looked impossible, but they took action every day to get where they are now. As you continue to repeat good habits, they will become like second nature, and you will start operating optimally and on autopilot. Self-discipline is the key to success. You might have all the knowledge, talent, or skill in the world, but because of lack of discipline, you will never make it. I believe there are better basketball players than Michael Jordan. I do too. Better singers than the late Whitney Houston. And people with better business ideas than Elon Musk. But the world will never know them because they have no self-discipline. Finally, I would like to remind you that there is a lot more to your self-discipline journey than you think. Whatever you want to achieve in life is going to have an impact on others. And if you fail to arrive at the place of purpose, the people who you would have had an effect on will never know that it's possible to achieve their dreams. One of the reasons I write books is because I read many books by people who motivate me to get where I'm today. I went to seminars and listened to motivational speakers to equip me with knowledge I needed to get to my next level. If the people who gave me access to the information I required to achieve my dreams, I had given up because of lack of discipline, there is a possibility that I wouldn't be where I am today, which means I wouldn't be writing this book and providing you with the knowledge you need to improve your self-discipline in order to succeed. You will never know what you are capable of until you start taking action and doing proactive, constructive things. Don't waste another second. Apply the principles you have learned and expect a radical transformation in life. I wish you every success on your journey to mastering self-discipline. Thanks for reading. I really hope you enjoyed this book and most of all, got more value from it than you had to give. It would mean a lot more if you left an amazing Amazon review. I will reply to all questions asked. Simply find this book on Amazon, scroll to the review section and click write a customer review, or alternatively, please visit www.pristinepublish.com. Discipline review to leave a review. Be sure to check out my email list while I'm constantly adding tons of value. The best way to get on the list currently is by visiting www.pristinepublish.com. Morning bonus and enter your email. Here I will provide actionable information that aims to improve your enjoyment of life. I will update you on my latest book, and I will even send free ebooks that I will think you find useful. The next book he got is How to Stop Procrastinating. Peace, everyone. Thank y'all for tapping in. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button, the like button. Card it up, thumbs it up. We promote peace, love, unity, community, family. We thank everyone for supporting us, tapping in. Make sure y'all go over to my wife's channel, Dion's Life. That is Dion's Life. That is DIONNE''S Life on YouTube. She's crushing it, y'all. She's motivating me to go to the next level with this thing. She's been at it for like 5 years, going on 5 years, and man, in 5 years, you see growth, and that's a great thing. So I'm proud of her. She know I'm proud of her. She's proud of herself. She's doing wonderful things. So keep on going, baby. I'm proud of you. Love you. I'm gonna go to my second book. But before I go to my second book of the day, I just encourage y'all to hit me up if I got books that y'all write. Y'all wrote a book, send it to me. I'm gonna read it from the front end to the back end. So let's make it happen. If I got any book recommendations I can read, please let me know in the comments. If I got concerns, questions, hit the inbox up. We here 24 hours, 365. So give me a minute. I'll be right back. Make sure y'all drink y'all juice, water, teas. 4:29. I'll be back. Inshallah. All right. Okay, let's go. So I have two. Hmm. I'm gonna go with this one. Again, the Black Wall Street and the Tulsa Race Massacre. The creation and destruction of America's wealthiest African American neighborhood. All right. All right. The alteration from a standard habit of begging or demanding status from a race for which equality was counterproductive was to be found in cultural and physical isolation, entrepreneurship. Come on, buddy. Come on. Come on. Self-help and internally self-help and internally generated profit. Black business interests managed to rid themselves of white hogging in a few spots of the East Coast and in the Midwest. Land was bought and sold exclusively with the black community, and the currency generated remained in the black system. All kinds of businesses were established in the monoracial enclaves with assistance from black lending institutions devoted to increase opportunities for African Americans' success. The most notable example of these black Camelots organized efficient, wealthy, and black collaborative rose out of the city of Tulsa, Oklahoma, on a hostile ground where the black man occupied the lowest rung of civil rights. Hundreds of businesses, ranging from the essentials to the luxuries, effectively debunked white stereotypes of African Americans' laziness, mental deficiency, immorality, and general shiftlessness. White Tulsans looked on while their neighbors and not looked on while their neighbors, the children of slaves, met or outpaced their standard of living. A culture that was once forbidden to receive basic literacy now sent their children to institutions such as Columbia University, Tuskegee Institute under the guidance of Washington, Howard University, and Spelman College. Indeed, what was to become held as Black Wall Street in the enclave of Greenwood District led the region in high-level financing and demonstration sophisticated investment skills that outpaced the city norm. The school system became a model of success, and residents bought fine homes, maintained an opulent social life, and become patrons of the arts. Naturally, former slaves had always desired access to the same opportunities and possessions of the masters, along with the freedom to employ them at will. The secret seemed to be found in constructive segregation, living apart and asking nothing from a resentful outside world whose objective it was to leave the black community in debt. The Greenwood district of Tulsa was not only the only example of social economic triumph created by the first generation that followed emancipation. The Jackson ward of Richmond, Virginia became the epic center of black banking in the otherwise rigid environment of Jim Crow, prevalent in other sections of the city. Haiti, North Carolina. I gotta look that up. named for the Caribbean island nation of Haiti. Yeah, yeah. Prospered amidst the population of Durham. Freedmen, freedmen, freedmen had come to work in the tobacco warehouses at the time created North Carolina Life Insurance, the wealthiest black-owned company in the state. The administrators added all manner of land developments, including a self-sufficient hospital staff with black doctors and nurses. By the first decade of 20th century, a library, theater, and 200 retail business had been added. Similar examples could be found in the Little Harlem of Birmingham, Alabama, Marcus Garvey Harlem in New York City, and in the following decades, Bowling, Oklahoma. The establishment of black prosperity in Tulsa came about as the culmination of several factors, the first being the destruction of American South. Both the land and aristocratic life within the plantation culture was shattered, and with a sporadic industry capacity recovering proceeded at a snail's pace. The post-Civil War years comprised an era of mitigation from Native Americans' relocation to blacks seeking escape from Jim Crow. To blacks seeking escape. Lincoln could speak all he liked of emancipation, but he could not alter the caste system of the South. The white overlord was determined to retain his liberal black labor force under an alternative set of legal restraints. The great bulk of American South, barren and unproductive after the sweeping Union invasions, was unkind of farmers above all others, eking out a bare existence for black sharecroppers left them constantly on the borders of bankruptcy and starvation. In order to approximate the pre-war status of slaves and to keep place old traditions of behaviors and financial struggle among the newly emancipated, the Democratic Party established Jim Crow to sustain white supremacy in the region. The concept consisted of a triangle of state and local statutes controlling black behavior. Named after a minstrel show character of the time, and these extreme legislations endured for decades, keeping black America legally subjugated past the mid 20th century. Jim Crow maintained a state of segregation, suppressed the rights of non whites to vote, barred access to formal education, and set strict code of public behavior. To understand the code was paramount, and violating it was perilous to one's safety. Black residents could not go into certain places in white communities, could not freely seek employment above their station, and could not bargain freely for wages. Blacks in financial errors were attached to families and indentured servants, and children of any age could be seized for labor or collateral. The code was not only instituted to maintain dominance over black residents, but for the poor of any color. The code was overseen by former Confederate soldiers who took up positions as post-war police officers, judges, politicians, and behind the entire phenom loomed the Ku Klux Klan, a terrorist group keeping non-whites in line through acts of violence and intimidation. The KKK was established at the war in Pulaski, Tennessee, as a private club for former Confederate officers. Some suggest that the White Hood barrage was initiated by Confederate General Nathan Bedford Forrest, who viewed blacks as human beings rather than statistics and troublemakers. Forrest apparently served his association with the first chapter after undesirables perverted the group ideas. According to Glenda Gilmore of Yale University, the string the strangle the stranglehold Jim Crow exerted on the South was malleable as black residents and white sympathizers explored new methods of resistance, requiring the system to prove its power. On a regular basis, the code was forced to reband and re-legislate itself as politicians struggled to retain their grip. With enough support from outside the black population, its power was never completed or total. Thus, in the end, the Southern black sharecroppers who were financially clear of servitude but bound to a marginal existence held once had one ace to pack what little they had and leave for better places with less abusive history. As a result, as freedom from slavery represented a radical transformation for the African American population, despite the change in technical and legal status as citizens, their economic and demographic realities were not so significantly altered. According to the 1890 census, 90% of blacks still lived in the South, roughly the same percentage as 20 years prior. Three-quarters of the black population was located in rural areas, and less than one half owned their own home. Whites owned their homes at twice that rate, and half all black men and 35% of black women were either farmers or farm laborers, a vastly higher percentage than that of their white population. African Americans were largely considered co- African Americans were largely co-signed to unskilled positions, and the percentage of children attending school was far lower than it was white families. The style of life for blacks was largely a continuation of past century, taken up with cotton agriculture. Some were part-time laborers, while others worked as tenant farmers, renting the land in twos out of an already meager income. Wages between whites and blacks were similar for agriculture work, by, but white workers were far more likely to own land. They continued to hold higher skilled jobs, while blacks generally worked for lower wage companies. In conjunction, the laws against personal rights grew more than severe than in the years prior to the Civil War. The Supreme Court decision in Plessy versus Ferguson gave way to an ever-increasing state of segregation, allowed for separate facilities and services between the races. Separate but equal was the proposition sold to the black community, which was interesting and paradoxical since black ordered segregation was to become the bedrock of financial success. Jim Crow laws segregated the schools, all manner of public transportation, lodgings, and government buildings. The company requirement for the equal treatment in the divided society was seldom enforced. As an example, money was regularly diverted from black school systems and funneled into white schools. White teachers' salaries rose on a per pupil basis, while black schools fell into a sharp decline. By the second decade of the 20th century, the South was altered by massive northward migration of black workers, causing a 4% drop in the black population over the period of just a few years. The northward movement was in every way tied to the either economic circumstances and or fear of the KKK. Many northern employers in several industries were experiencing an increased demand for their products and thus required a large and immediate labor force. The traditional source of labor, immigrants from Europe, dried up due to World War One, while the international flow of immigrant workers was interrupted and worsened by the passage of the harsher anti-immigration laws. Turning to African American labor employees sent recruiters into the South, raising the prospect of higher wage than the Southern employees could provide and offering to pay each man way to the factory location. The North also looked all the better as the boy weevil weevil and weather abnormalities wreaked havoc with cotton crop. Although black America did not rise out of this unskilled category, the pay was significantly better and the fields of opportunity were vastly broader. Hmm. Of course, there were drawbacks to moving north. Admittance to certain firms could not be procured by black citizens, especially the new southern arrivals. The Ford Motor Company hired many, but other major automakers in Detroit would not. And in many cases, blacks took on unpleasant and dangerous tasks shunned by some white workers. These included work in meat packing plants, foundry departments of auto companies, and blast furnaces in the production of steel. As unions gained strength in the North, the relationship with the new black workers was often antagonistic. Most passed explicit rules barring entry to black laborers. When faced with strikes, employees frequently hired black workers as strike breakers. Black females found the pursuit of work a more difficult proposition as competition grew increasingly heated among domestic workers. Tulsa. Among the possible areas where a higher quality lifestyle was possible, the Oklahoma Territory ended up being a prime arrival point for those who chose to move west instead of north. Created only a year after the war ended, the pursuit of Oklahoma land came about through a request of federal government to reduce Cheyenne, Comanche, Comanche, and Arapaho lands. And once accomplished, the region was prepared for a land rush, in which both whites and blacks were eligible for the pursuit of new acreage. The availability of land in Oklahoma Territory was made possible by earlier forced migration of Native Americans from the states of Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, North Carolina, Florida. 3 decades before the Civil War, Andrew Jackson established the Indian Removal Act and sent Native landowners on a forced march of 5,043 miles that wound through 9 states, now referred as the Trail of Tears. Through the Those thrown off their land walked the distance in double file, many bound in chains, 1,000 reaching what the government called the Indian colonization zone at the west edge of the Midwest. Ooh, man. For purpose of eventual statehood, native land was in perpetuity easy to withdraw or reduced depending on the perceived need, and people took advantage of the confiscated lands from the relocation. However, the generally unknown reality of the 12 Tills is the five civilized tribes, including the Cherokee, Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, and Seminole, brought their own black slaves on the forced march, and some of them went on to become crucial in the development of Ringwood District. A number of native leaders had acquired extraordinary wealth before taking the journey. A number of the native leaders had acquired extraordinary wealth before taking the journey, such as half Scottish chief John Ross, leader of the Cherokee Nation. Other wealthy, other wealthy colleagues joined him. A modern perception that one American president put the entire incident into motion is incorrect. The idea of native relocation spanned the administration of 9 presidents, and removing them from the South and East was a popularly endorsed, congressionally sanctioned scheme. Many speculated that in time black slaves and their native masters would unite against the white domination, but that never occurred. Among those who accompanied natives, most blacks were taken captive as stolen slaves, but there was a small number of freedmen, and a few hundred ran away from their southern masters as free people and often adopted as family. By the time the tribes began purchasing them from the standard American slave markets, the five civilized tribes were deeply committed to slavery. Before the Civil War, blacks had already joined the tribe in numbers, and the Cherokee brought 1,500 to Oklahoma. The Creek Nation included 300 blacks. Approximately 1,200 were owned by the Chickasaw. Eventually, 8,000 black people were present among the tribes. And throughout this time, native leaders participated in a global economy driven by cotton. They believed without hesitation they were equal to whites and superior to blacks. The slaves who eventually reached the Greenwood District as citizens arrived through various diplomatic avenues, and rules governing slavery differed from tribe to tribe. As larger numbers of black refugees from the South arrived, the equation changed. Eventually, the five civilized tribes were forced to accept land allotments in order to remain legal residents of the new state. And while the Dawes Act, DAWES Act, finalized federal control over Indian land, in a real sense of the Native American population transported with the black slaves were the true founders of the city of Tulsa. Unlike emancipated slaves, tribal members were allowed to own land, vote, and serve on juries. And local judicial system. After providing their civil to the federal government, they were allowed to participate in the social life of the nation that had once occurred them as the statistical fraction of a human being regarding public transaction and legislative agendas. Stop there. Alright, that was from Charles River, editor, Black Wall Street and the Tulsa Race Massacre, the Creation and Destruction of America, wealthiest African American neighborhood. Um, I just want to say thank y'all for tapping in. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button, the heart button. We're going from 1 share to 10 shares, 10 shares to 100 shares, 100 shares to 1,000 shares, 1,000 shares to 10,000 shares, 10,000 shares to 100,000 shares. After 100,000 shares, we're going to a million shares, y'all. So it starts with you. So I appreciate it. Make sure y'all go check out my YouTube, Tru Hicks. That's TRU Hicks, HICKS. Also, go ahead and check my wife out on YouTube. She's crushing it. She's doing her things. We proud of her. She's proud of herself. Let's get it. Her name is Dion's Life on YouTube. That is DIONNE_S Life, Dion's Life. So it's Tru Hicks, Dion's Life. We about to get out of here and go get some shots up, and work on our hoop game, So until the next time, y'all, you know what it is. Peace, 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 peace.